My biggest fear would be when the first comes and I don't get the rent.
I found that my tenant had dumped concrete down my toilet. Can you believe Fair Housing fined me $5,000 for that?
How do you onboard your tenants? What do you do?
I don't even know if I do it right.
If you're a landlord, don't just rent, rent perfect. The Rent Perfect podcast with property expert and private investigator, David Pickron.
Well, Scott, if you're a landlord, don't just rent
perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
Right.
Hey, welcome to
Right.
the podcast today, everybody. Welcome back. We've got Scott all the way up in Utah today, but here at the Rent Perfect podcast, we can work while we're on vacation a little bit too, right?
That's right.
That's right. Now, hey, I'm looking at your screen right now for you on the podcast. Sorry you can't see this, but I don't recognize that home behind you right there. Where are you at?
So interesting, right? So we own a rental property across the street from where I'm at, but the opportunity came up. It's 4th of July weekend, and I could rent a home across the street from the home I own for about half of what I'm paying, what I'm collecting. So I moved out for 7 days. We're living across the street, making double what I'm paying for the rent here. It worked out.
That is a typical investor story right there.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's great. We've talked about the last few podcasts about us investors and facing a down economy that we see on the horizon. And the other day I was talking to somebody and they asked me just a very, very, just a really good question to think about right now. And it's a real simple question, but I think it was one that we needed to kind of bat around and talk about. But it is pretty much, should we continue to invest? Is now the time to continue to invest? And it's kind of a hard question to answer, believe it or not, because I think if you were to say, hey, Dave, just give us a yes or no, I'd probably say based on, buy low, sell high, probably no. But I can't get away from investing. I haven't turned off, the research and the looking at properties and looking at deals. Have you?
No, I mean, I'm actually looking harder right now because I'm looking for that diamond in the rough out there.
Right. So they're a little harder to find right now. But, and then I was thinking after she asked me that question, I was thinking, what really is investing? Is it signing on the dotted line and buying a property, or is it just the whole way you kind of live your life and your whole mentality? In other words, I feel like I'm investing when I'm researching, right? When I'm looking at properties. So if you were to ask me the question, should we quit investing? Maybe you might not be pulling the triggers often right now as you could, but you still need to be in the game, looking at opportunities out there.
Right. If we define investing as only the time that we're actually doing the deal, then we're shortcutting ourselves. 'Cause I think you're right. I mean, right now is the time to research, to look at things, really analyze things a little bit more, see where we're at. That makes you an investor, but you're also investing, right? Because you don't buy every property you look at.
I kind of do. No,
yeah.
I want to.
Yeah. But for the most part, I mean, you might look at 5 or 10 properties before you buy one. Now you might look at 10 or 20 properties instead of 5 or 10, but you're still looking. I agree.
And you could, there are strategies right now on where do I put my money in a safe position to get ready for, maybe some investment opportunities in the future. We'll talk about that in the next few podcasts, different ways you can just kind of put your money in a safe spot. I went as crazy, Scott, and you know this, but I went as crazy as I bought 20 dumpsters. Like, where you fill garbage up, but 20 dumpsters I invested into a dumpster company, and they're going to pay me a great return to, give them. And hey, it's metal. It might not be gold or silver, but it's metal. Right. And I don't
hopefully nobody's living in them.
Well, as long as I get my money, I guess I don't care what they're doing. Right. But that dumpster's a decent asset. I mean, so it gets dinged up a little bit. No one cares, right? But, is that investing? Yeah, absolutely 100%. Am I out buying homes right now this week or last week? No, I'm starting to see the homes coming down a little bit. But there's a point where I'm going to say, okay, I think that's low enough to go. So as an investor, I think a successful investor is looking 2 months out into the future, 4 months, a year, 2 years. It's all about the future, right?
It's forecast. You're forecasting. Yeah. Exactly.
And I don't think you're ever going to buy at the absolute low, and I don't think you're ever going to sell at the absolute high. Here's an example. I wanted to unload some of our properties this year. I saw it just getting totally crazy. We were selling them, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over asking price.
Right.
It was just, when it doesn't make sense, it's all soon going to be coming to an end. Just keep that in mind in the next future cycles. When you're dealing with stuff that doesn't make sense, it's almost over. The problem is with taxes is I didn't want to unload all of my properties because it takes me, now there's a long-term capital gains on many of them, but I didn't want all that income coming in at the same time and have to deal with that. And so in a way, I couldn't have sold a ton of properties even at the height of it because Uncle Sam wanted a lot of that money. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, you could make an argument that capital gains are going up to 20, 25%, and it is better to sell right now. I mean, that's just your own situation and what you feel that, what's going to happen. Once again, what's going to happen in a year, 2 years down the road.
Yep.
So, as a real estate agent, Scotty, give me some ideas about if you're an investor right now and you're selling or buying, or what would you advise people?
Well, I look at the numbers, right? I mean, you always have to look at the numbers and kind of see. I always say let those statistics kind of speak for themselves. So we know that in 2021, rents were up about almost 12%. Projection for 2022 is that rents are going to be up about 8%. So over the last 2 years, a 20% bump is pretty healthy, right? But all the stuff I'm looking at from the Federal Reserve, National Association of Realtors, the guys that are movers and shakers in our world, in this industry, they're still buying, I think. Okay, you look at this and say, okay, home prices are up you're going to be up about 7% this year. Okay, so we're not, I mean, everybody's worried about flatlining, but I think what we're doing is, like you mentioned, that $40,000 to $50,000 over that people were paying was unrealistic, right? That wasn't what the house was really worth. So as the market kicks back down, okay, we're up, but we're not going to be up 100%, 80, 90%.
Right,
we might be up 7. So, they're saying 7% over the next 12 months.
Okay.
And then 2% annually over the next 5 years. So there's still growth in buying homes. But when they look at rental outlooks over the next 12 months, we're talking about an 11% bump. So there's a 4.5% gap there between what housing prices are going to do versus rental prices. So rental prices are still going to outgain those house price gains. And over the next 5 years, those are projected to continue. That gap there is projected to still continue to grow and grow and grow. So there still is some growth side on the rental side.
Yeah, but we've been a little spoiled the last 2, 3, 4 years.
Absolutely.
The appreciation rate has been amazing. And, being a national podcast, we obviously, every situation is different. My friends out in Cleveland, Ohio, didn't see the big bump in their house prices. Those of us in Florida, Arizona, California, always, Colorado, we've seen this big bump where we're putting offers in and people are coming in $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over, if not more, on these homes. It's just what we're used to. It's actually going to be kind of nice to come back down, be able to look at a few properties, make a few decisions, and not just have this craziness out there.
Well, I think we have to get back into the mindset of, I'm willing to make money, like the old school investor, right? I'm willing to make 3 or 4% a year. Like we've seen in the last couple of years, making 30, 40, 50% jumps in appreciation. Right. That those are unrealistic, unsustainable numbers. But when we look at the numbers, like our old school numbers, and say, I'd be happy with a 5% gain every year over the next 5 years. That'd be amazing.
Well, they're really good for my own personal pocketbook, those big numbers, if I'm in the market. But it's really not healthy for society. I mean, we're going to leave people behind, and it's going to, we might have a few good neighborhoods around, but everything else is going to be people that are struggling, homeless. We need to, we can't grow too fast. We got to kind of raise everybody a little bit and make sure that we have that.
I think what you said there was key, because you said, if I'm in the market, those were great. Right. If I was already an owner in the market, great. But if I'm an investor looking to get into it right now, I might be a little bit hesitant, but there still is some promise out there for more normalized numbers.
Absolutely. And if you're asking me, am I selling anything? No, I'm not selling anything. Now, I'm not going to think that I'm going to get a 10, 20% appreciation bump this year or next year, but I'll take my 3, 5, 7%. And, plus the rent that's coming in that's paying the mortgage and maybe, $300, $400 in cash flow. And then I'll continue to work my short-term rentals. You see anything coming on with short-term rentals at all that if you hold those, you should be worried about?
No, I think short-term rentals, some of the stuff I'm reading is we're really looking at short-term renters are more than likely going to turn into long-term tenants right now, just because of the market, right? Because it's going to be hard for them to get into a house, and it might be even harder for them to buy their own home. So those guys that are short-term, maybe 3-6 months, we look at, and I think you've had a personal experience recently where you've got a short-term renter that you kind of went, let's look at what my portfolio looks like, and can I turn them into a long-term renter?
Well, rents were so high at one of the properties that I have, I was presented with, listen, I'll pay you your short-term rental rate, and I'll take it for 3 years. So, usually on those properties, I was out probably, I don't know, a month or two a year in between people coming and leaving. And now when I'm talking short-term rentals, I'm not talking vacation rentals on the weekends. I'm talking about people in between homes, 3 to 6 months, traveling nurses, stuff like that, furnished.
Right.
I said, sure, great. I'll sign a 3-year lease with you on a, more of a short-term project and turn you into a long-term rental if you want to pay me, those kind of prices. And, but, for them, that's about what rents were nowadays. So it wasn't anything that was a big deal for them either on the other side. So,
right.
Yeah, you might see some of those short-term furnished rentals go back into the long-term rental market too.
Yep.
Short-term, I'm going to call them vacation rentals, weekend type of things. How do you see those going forward? Do you have any idea if you think those are going to be?
As an owner of some, right, I see they're great still. People, even if people are still a little bit homebound and kind of working from home, having these short-term vacation rentals for me is a great deal, because I think people still want to get away, and they might be getting away locally, right? Like, let's shoot 30 minutes to the mountains or 30 minutes away, and almost a staycation, but not. Right. So I still think those have some great value in them.
Right. So the right opportunity for me, about 2 hours out of Phoenix, up into the mountains, the escape.
Right.
I'm still looking for those. And I'll even pay a little bit more maybe than someone who wants to move into it full time, because they are so lucrative on the weekends. But I'm a big believer that short-term rentals that are those short-term vacation or short drive vacations, I should say. Yeah. I think they're going to get super popular as you look at, these airlines and people getting canceled, airlines and expensive gas. And it's just, a family of 4 to go on vacation nowadays is just, it's an enormous amount of money.
Yeah.
And even though gas is high, hey, throw a tank of gas in, $100, get everybody up to the mountains, or 2 hours outside of a metro area, and let's just go play games and go on hikes and have a good time together. So I still think
versus a $500 plane ticket times 4 kids and absolutely.
So I still think that that's the direction that I'm kind of focusing on right now. So really the question is should we still be investing? Yeah, but it's just going to be a little bit more work, a little bit more research. But, I come back to this. When do you make your money? Do you make it when you buy it, or do you make it when you sell it?
You make it when you sell it, typically.
Okay, you put it in your pocket when you sell
when
it.
You cash it. Yeah, that's when you cash it.
You put it in your pocket when you sell it. But think about this. If you didn't buy it at a low rate, there's nothing to put in your pocket when you sell it, right? Yeah. So I'm excited, actually, to see this economy correct itself a little bit, because I know it brings opportunity. I was at a RIA a while ago, and a guy stood up, and they said, hey, has anybody done any deals in the last month? And he raised his hand. He said, hey, I tried to. I put in 8 offers, didn't get any, but I tried to. And everybody stood up and gave him like a standing ovation for even trying. We cannot continue as investors with with it going up, the economy the way that it was. Right. It's got to come down for us. So, as I go around and speak to people and they're a little down about what's coming, I'm like, listen, this is opportunity coming. Just make sure you can get to some money when you need it, because that's going to be the key right there. It's not that there's going to be no deals on the table. It's going to be, can you get the money to get the deal? Is a bank going to loan to you? Do you have cash in your IRA? Do you have a whole life policy you can insurance policy you can loan against?
Use to fund things, yeah.
I mean, it's really going to be about getting liquid right now in a way and having access to funds. So when those deals do come, you can jump on them quick. But there's a lot of money to be made in the future. So if you're not investing today, get ready to invest tomorrow, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. Hey, one more thing I want to discuss. If you have to sell right now, Scott, if you have to sell, what do you think a good strategy is if you have to sell?
I mean, really, it's so unique to each market, right? But if I'm saying I'm going to sell right now, price it right. Like,
Okay.
I mean, location, right? But really, right now, it's about pricing. It's about pricing it where you're not. Buyers don't want to be gouged. They're getting gouged at the pump every couple days for some people, right? So people want a fair deal. And so I think, if you price it right, you price it fair. One of the things I love right now too is, hey, if I've got a 4-bedroom home, I might market it as a 3-bedroom home plus an office, because so many people are working from home nowadays. And so it's really kind of looking at the thing and say, or, hey, I'm going to upgrade some technology stuff in my home that I'm going to be selling, because people are working at home and they need better internet connections. They need a room that can kind of escape from. So,
Right. So maybe highlighting high-speed cable internet, instead of like, not to knock a CenturyLink or kind of like a phone company that offers.
Right.
I mean, you need some better communication to the outside world. I think right now that I'm looking at all the home prices here in Phoenix, and not to keep talking about Phoenix, it's just what I know. But if you're in a market like Phoenix, we were putting them on our houses out on the market at what we thought was the market value, and people were really buying homes with the market value 2 and 3 months down the road. In other words, they're offering us over asking. Well, now that those trends are coming down, and we still have people with big eyes. I still see people, will put up a 2,000 square foot home in certain neighborhoods for like $650. It's probably worth $525 right now, but there's these people that are just a little late in the game. These homeowners that think their homes are worth more than it is, and they put it up. And I look at those prices right now, and I'm like, that will drop. That will drop in the next week or two. I just know it will. I'm sure the real estate agent's going, yeah, we've kind of missed that.
right.
We've missed that bubble right now.
Well, I'm sure you, David, too. I've subscribed to some things where I see where, 6 months ago, everything I says price increase, but now I'm seeing every property that I get emailed to me, $10,000, $25,000 prices.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that house is worth less. It just means that house is correcting back to what it's actually worth.
Exactly. So if you're putting your price up high right now, and then you're having to reduce it while home prices are falling, you're going to be chasing. Think about this: if you priced it fairly today and sold it, or you chased it and didn't sell it for 6 months and then sold it 6 months down the road, you're probably better off discounting it a little bit today, because the value in 6 months is going to be less than your discount today. And so, if you're selling right now, I wouldn't get too greedy right now. Not in a market where things are going down. I'd get rid of the product right now if you have to sell. I don't have to sell. I'm not going to sell. I'm waiting for the next cycle to come, and there'll just be more money on the table. So, Scotty, the reality is I don't know whether to say we're investing right now or not. I myself am. It's just who I am. It's who I wake up, and it's where I go to bed. I'm just in that world. It would be kind of weird for me not to think like an investor. I don't know what that would even look like,
Right.
but the deals are few and far between. So it's the old adage of buy low, sell high. Right now things are coming down. Maybe it's just a time to position yourself to get that next deal. It might be a month, it might be 6 months, it might be 2 years, but be ready for it. So continue to keep that investor hat on. And until next time, continue to rent perfect.